Hi, it's Lee. Welcome to another weekly tip video. So I covered BetterTouchTool in shows 1543 and 1547. And I advised then that there may be some tip videos coming up that would cover even more features that I think you're going to benefit from. And today's show is all about floating menus. So when it comes to getting to actions quickly, I think they're a real game changer. And if you like BetterTouchTool, then trust me, you're going to want to watch this. I would say that some knowledge of creating actions in the application would help you, as this really does follow on from the other two videos in the series. So let's check it out. Okay, before we start, I just want to say there are lots of variations on how you can set up your floating menus. So what I'm going to do in this part of the video is show you a setup that I find really effective. And I picked this up from the developer, so it must be a good way of setting up. So first of all, we need to be sure that this drop down is set to custom floating menus. And I'm going to create a floating menu here that's going to be seen in all applications. Here we've got some templates that you can choose from. So at the time of recording, there are 6 of them. We've got a default one, then a context menu style one here with submenus. That's pretty good. Coming down, we've got a hot corner menu template. There's an alpha test one. This circular one can look pretty fetching, and there is a glassy one that appears to the left of the dock to give some extra buttons. I'm going to add the basic one at the top first to show how this works. I'll give it a name that makes sense to me, so my global menu, and it's in. So you'll see it's got 3 items on it at the moment. I can move it wherever I like around here. And it's currently sitting on top of all of the other windows, and we're going to change that in a short while. So if you remember back from the other BetterTouchTool videos, when we click on this item here, our configuration panel on the far right changes, allowing us to configure the menu as a whole. Then when we click on these buttons in this pane, we're able to configure those in the far right too. You can rearrange these buttons here whenever you like. Doesn't matter too much really for this video because we're going to be deleting a couple of these shortly. Right, with the base menu created, before we start putting buttons on it that are assigned to actions, I want to position it properly. Now I do have a fixed idea on what I want to do with this. So with the menu selected, I'm going to come over here and first of all click visibility because I just want to show you this drop down. You can have the menu visible on launch as it is now, or you can set it to be toggled only as an action. So something else would trigger it. I'm okay with visible on launch, but position on screen, this is something I want to change. Let's just move this up a bit here. So we've got 2 options. We can move and resize it freely or have it in a specific place. And that's what I would like. And you can see it's automatically moved. It's positioning the menu's top left corner at the focused Windows top left corner. Now you may want that, but I don't. I want the menu's bottom left corner, and clicking here, you can see it gives us a lot of choice for where we fix it to. Well, I want the focus screen, not the window. And on the screen, I want the bottom left corner to be in the screen's bottom left corner. So now we can see it down there, and that's where it's staying. But we're not quite done yet. Next, we're going to stop the floating menu from sitting on top of all of the other windows. In the configuration pane here, I'm going to click on this other section because in here we have a drop down for the window level, and this determines where the window will sit. Right now, it floats on top of everything, but I want it to be just like a desktop icon or widget. And you can see already it's tucking behind there. Then when you come down and hover over it, I want this to be floating over everything. So it kind of activates it when you hover. You can see that as I come down here and back. So far, so good. Now, next we come to a clever bit. We're going to expand this menu when we hover over it so that we can fit more buttons in. For this, I click on Menu Mouse Hover Options here. And if I just bring all of these options into view, I'm going to click Resize on Hover. And now you need to put in a size here that works for you. So in this demo, I'll do a minimum width of 400 pixels and the same for the height there. I'll click Save and watch what happens when I hover now. You can see it expands and it grows bigger. This means that we can now technically shrink the size of the menu now so that it's unobtrusive to our day-to-day work. and we just activate it when we hover over. So in the menu size section here, I'm going to change this here to be 80 pixels square. I'll save this, and the size and utility of this menu is starting to take shape. Now, the next thing I want to do is change the shape of the buttons, and I want these to be square. Now, to edit them, all you need to do is ensure that the button you want to change is selected here, and then you can configure on the right-hand side. It is a good idea to give them a unique name, and this is a button that's going to put me in the Do Not Disturb focus mode. And you'll see that just changes the item name, not the text within the button here. We're going to do that shortly. But right now, I just want to make it a square. So I'm going to go into item size here, and I can change the values here and make it square. I'll click save, and I can see a preview, but let's come down and see how that looks. And yeah, that's what I want. Now, I reckon I can fit 16 of these in here. So to do that quickly, I'm going to select these two buttons here and delete them. And then you'll see if I right click, we've got a duplicate option with a shortcut of Option Command and D. Okay, I've duplicated those. So we've got 16 buttons to configure their appearance and actions for. So a little bit of work coming. But if I come down, you can see that I've got a nice little grid of buttons here. They're going to look great when I'm finished. Now, I'm sure you've noticed that we can see part of one of the buttons there. And I'd quite like that to be hidden. So that's an easy job. I'll close this item size section. And then if I come down to item visibility, this checkbox here, visible while menu is not hovered, needs to be cleared. And of course, we're actually going to need to do that with all of the buttons. So I'll select them all and uncheck. And you can see we now just have a translucent space there. Well, I'd quite like to have something that tells me there's a menu behind it. So what I can do is add a new item. And of course, that does appear. But if we format this, we can make it look nice, and it doesn't need to have an action assigned to it just because it's there. It's purely visual. So if I come up here into item size, I'm going to make this a much smaller square. And then I'm going to come down and click on background. So that purple color, that's got to go. And you'll see you have options here for how you want the background to be filled. I want it clear. And what I'd like to do is replace that new item text with an icon. So I'm going to delete that text up here, first of all. And then if I come down here, I'll click on icon, and you can add an image from a file, or you can add one from SF symbols, which I'll do. I'll click here. And if I just search for arrow, I should find one that looks okay. And yep, I think this one here looks like it will do. We can see that down here. It's offset to the left, and I want to have it in the center. So I just need to select the item again here, come up to the item position, and then I'm going to put this in the center. So as far as the placement and visibility of this menu goes, I'm really happy with that. Next, it's time to configure the buttons themselves. Now, I'm not going to spend too long configuring the formatting because it's something you're going to want to play with yourself to see what you like. You can change the text in here, and the changes won't commit until you click save, and then you can see the preview over here. You can do things like add emojis, change the font size, all of that usual stuff. Then you've got text color. You can change the color when you hover over it here too, and I'm sure you're going to take a look at those. You can configure the background with lots of options here. I'll change the color to blue here and save so you can see how that looks. And I also quite like to change the color displayed when the button is hovered over. Let's go mad and make this red and save this. So down here, how does that look? And you can see that effect there. So loads of configuration options available for how these individual buttons look. But I'm going to pause and just replace the D&D text there with an icon. Now for assigning actions, I am going to expect you to have an understanding of what actions are in BetterTouchTool from the previous videos. And I'll just show you some examples now. So these buttons here, essentially, they're just triggers at the end of a day, and you assign actions to them. So this Do Not Disturb button here, I'm going to click to add the first action. Then in here, I'm just going to search for Do Not Disturb, and then click to select it. So that button should toggle Do Not Disturb mode on and off. Let's see. that's toggled it on and off. So that should give you enough information now to go away and build your own control panel. And I'm going to do just that and show you some examples. Okay, that took a little while, but I've got just a few here that have appeared in various floating menus that I've used in the last few months. So 4 different focus modes sit at the top there. I know you can get to them from the menu bar in Control Center, but there is less clicking here. You might want that. Then you can get to system commands from here quickly as well. So maybe app expose or mission control are candidates. But there are lots of system commands that you could add in here. Some people don't like pressing Command and Space to invoke Spotlight and then Command and 4 to get to the clipboard. So why not build a BetterTouchTool action that combines them? And you can see that appeared really quickly. Or if you use a dedicated clipboard manager app, that's a great shout to have in your control panel as well. Screenshot keyboard shortcuts can be tricky to remember. So this one here does the whole screen. Then this one here was built in BetterTouchTool to create a screenshot of a window. Then we have the freeform selection screenshot here. This is a quick button that just locks your machine. Then down here, of course, you can replace Teams with Zoom or any app of your choice, but these buttons turn on and off the camera and your microphone. This one on the far left here just goes into the Mail application and presses the keyboard shortcut for a new email. And then finally, why not have a button that activates certain applications and positions them on the screen for you ready to go? There is so much scope for you here, and we haven't even looked at things like slider buttons that you can add that change volume or brightness, or perhaps scriptable buttons that will show the time in different time zones. Once you get started, this can be a real rabbit hole. Speaking of rabbit holes, I'm adding this bit on the end of the video because I think it's important and I really want to share it with you. So if you want to have individual floating menus for individual applications, you can do that. And I'm just going to quickly show you how I myself set them up and activate them. You can riff on this yourself, of course. So first, make sure that the application you want to add it to is selected on the left. Then click plus to add your first one. Now, I quite like using these context menu styles with submenus for applications, but there's no wrong type for you to choose here. Just go with what you like. Make sure you give it a relevant name. And with that added, if I switch across to OmniFocus, you can see the menu appears there, but when I come back to BetterTouchTool, it's gone. So far, so good. Now, I want that menu to be hidden at all times. I don't want to be distracted by it until I press a button, and then it can appear. So first, where's it going to appear? Well, in position on screen here, I want to position the menu's center here at and this is the bit that works for me, I have it appear where my mouse pointer currently is. And you'll see how that looks in a second. Then down here, I want it hidden until I press a button. So I'm going to click this drop down and select only show when modifier buttons are pressed. And I'm going to use the option key here. However, I need to be mindful that if I use the option key for any keyboard shortcuts, then I might want to change it so that only the right option key would trigger this menu. Otherwise, every time I try to key in that shortcut, this menu would appear. Now this works for me if I switch across to OmniFocus. As you can see, we've got no menu anywhere until I press option and then it appears. And I can use my new context menu. So I'm going to pause and just add a few items in there. So I've just done that very quickly and only added a few in. But now when I press option, no matter where the cursor is, I've got my menu to hand. And the beauty of this is if there are any actions or keyboard shortcuts that you use a lot, just create a context menu for them and take some friction away. You can do this with all of your most used applications, and the time that you save is quite amazing. You could have multiple floating menus per application that appear underneath the cursor, but they're invoked by a different keyboard modifier. I've set up a few of these now, and I'm far from done. Floating menus are pretty good, aren't they? Having menus per application with your most used actions is really something. And there are so many use cases, I could create 100 of these videos and it still wouldn't cover them all. So I hope you have fun with them and let me know how you get on and show me the ones that you've made. I really would like to see them. So thanks for watching. we'll be back on Friday with a full video. So we'll see you then.